All right, let's try that again. Hi, everyone. Welcome to my workshop on connecting your past skills to your present position as an ALT. I know there's some JTEs in this workshop, so thank you for coming also. So first off, the obligatory, this is me section. So me, hey, that's me in a cowboy hat. And come on, PowerPoint, do something. Hey, okay, so I'm from Boston. I got my bachelor's in game design in a small little school in Vermont called Champlain College. Graduated 2013, and I am also TEFL certified, which I did before coming to Japan. So I decided pretty soon that I don't really want to do game design. So I kind of made the switch pretty early, and I know there's a lot of people here kind of trying to figure out what their purpose is in life. So hey, we all come from different walks of life. So as for my teaching here, I did 3 years as the high school ALT position in Masuda, Suwano, and Yoshika high schools, as well as Masuda Yogo. And now I'm on my 3rd year doing junior high and elementary down in Suwano. So I've kind of run the gamut at this point as far as schools. No different from Azad. I'm sure we both have kind of experienced all over the place at this point. So what is this workshop? As I said on the title side, basically I want to talk about everyone, how you can use your past experiences, whatever they are, whether it's work experience, something you studied when you went to college, university, or just personality traits, hobbies, whatever. And some people want to figure out how they can incorporate that into the classroom. So this the idea of this workshop was actually inspired by this guy, Azad. So reason being, 4 years ago now, I did Azad, you're going off in the corner. I did a workshop on my how I used game design and the principles of game design from my time in college and how I applied it to how I applied it in the workplace, basically. So we'll call this the open-ended sequel to that presentation. And that is what I kind of use as a springboard for this workshop today. So this is a little bit more of an obscure workshop. I mean, there have been things like this in the past, but it's a lot less of me presenting a topic to you, although there will be some of that, but it will be a lot more of you guys sharing your experiences with each other. And especially the roles are going to be very different. So it's like Senpais, when I split you up into your breakout rooms later, you're going to kind of be using or talking about your past experiences. And then, the younger fresh meat first years, you guys are going to talk about how you can use your backgrounds in class. And it could be something, obvious or something a lot more nuanced, which I'll talk about in a second. So hopefully everyone can walk out of today's session with an idea of how they can use their respective skill sets. And then as a bonus, you can hear a whole lot of other ideas of what other people have done, whether it's something you're familiar with or not. So in addition to using your own, critically thinking about how you can use your own experiences, you can also get ideas from other people of what they've done in class. So this is something we're going to come back to, but I still want to glance over real quick for a moment. So just more stuff about me. Things I have, how can I say this? Things I guess can sort of define me. I studied game design, studied TEFL, math and Spanish. I'm putting a big old star next to it because they applied more to me kind of when I first got here. I really liked math. I had a decent Spanish base. And if there's any Spanish speakers in the audience, I don't want to offend anyone by trying to speak Spanish now because it's not as good as it used to be. Other work experience I've had, landscaping, retail, not at all connected to either game design or teaching English as a foreign language. So my background experiences are all quite different from one another. General skills I feel like I've acquired over the years through my game design program. Definitely creativity is something I've gotten out of that, leading small teams. And I've given more presentations than I can count at this point. And that's something I started doing during my college years, because we had to probably do about one presentation a week, if not more, for my game design courses or elsewise. Other hobbies and interests I have. Recently started taiko. I play the sax. Debate was something I started after coming here, and I've kind of since become known as the debate guy. Going to concerts, RIP. That's me in a Kesha shirt at Summer Sonic. Anyway, won't be going to any concerts anytime soon. And then just travel. I think we all have, a love for travel to some degree or another. Obviously, money hampers that in some cases with student loans. Yay! But anywho, we're going to come back to this slide in a minute. So, how to incorporate your skill sets into the classroom. And I know you're all going to hate me for this, but ESID. Every situation is different. So this is going to depend on, of course, so many factors: where you're from, what you studied, your work experience, what you're doing now, whether it's high school, elementary, junior high school, and then even furthermore, what your specific role in the classroom is. So this is what today is for. It's just to get small little group sessions going and critically think about it and bounce ideas basically off of each other. It could be as simple as putting something you like or are interested in a PowerPoint. We've all done our GCO Shokai at this point. I'm sure we'll be, doing some more as time goes on. But for you first years, I think you've gotten past the hump of doing a whole bunch, but there'll still be more. But it could be a lot more nuanced. Sneaking a secret fact about yourself into a activity or game or PowerPoint or something like that. And of course, whenever you want to try something new, and this is something we've beaten to death today, it's that you should, if you want to try something, talk to your JT or your homeroom teacher or supervisor, whoever it is. So now we're going to, or I'm going to talk about, I guess, how things I've incorporated into my time as a teacher. So it's kind of going back to that list, but I'm going to bring out the main points that I was able to, I guess, employ through my time here. So the obvious, game design. I made games. That's a very easily applicable thing to my current situation. And I know not everyone's background is going to be so obviously able to put into this. A few years ago when Azad came to me, one of his questions was, I went to school as a game artist. How can I incorporate art into the classroom? And again, that was one of the things that kind of was a springboard for this presentation. So that can be just simple as, making card games with art on it or something like that. But for me, again, game design, I made games. And then more kind of principles of it. So like sort of the background stuff. So one of the things that was definitely fostered through my program was my creativity skills. So I, pride myself on not only just the fact that I can make games for classes, but also just even if it's not a game, even it's just an activity using grammar or just a lesson as a whole. I, personally feel as though I've been able to make lessons creative and fun. And if the kids are all smiling and laughing and they come out of it able to, say what they've done that day, then I'm happy. And I feel like I've accomplished what I set out to do. Iteration. For those of you who don't know what this means, this is one thing we did in game design to death. Basically, it just means an idea can always be improved. It can always be improved and it can always be made better. And even then, depending on certain classes and certain grades, if you take the same activity to a different class or a different grade, you never use it the exact same way. And you can always change it, even if it's on the fly. And then to that end, you'll also need to get feedback. And feedback is a hugely important thing. These are three principles I took very much out of my game design, or my time doing game design in college. Ask for feedback whenever it's possible, but be specific. We talked about this in the keynote a bit, that you don't want to just say, oh, how did this go? Because your answer is just going to be, it was good. You know, oftentimes Japanese teachers, they don't know how to specifically respond to that question. So ask a very specific question. What did you think about this specific part of the game, or this specific activity, or how I presented this particular thing? Be specific with your feedback. And then aside from the game design stuff, the obvious, going back to that again, debate. Again, this was something I did after coming here. I have been a debate judge in the high school English debate competition for 4 years. And then I also was in charge of Masuda High School's and Suwano High School's debate team for also 4 years. And bringing that into the classroom was very, it was pretty easy. As far as, you know, in general, of course, I had to change it depending on the level of the classes. But these are just examples of things I brought to the classroom. And then kind of more nuanced, less frequently used, just things about me or things I want the kids to know about me using my past experiences. When you're, if you, I mean, obviously we haven't been able to travel much recently, but anytime I went on a trip, if it was after spring vacation, I would do a quick thing. Oh, sorry. I would do a quick thing on one time I went to, on a trip to Korea. One time I did a road trip around Kyushu. Or just past things you've done, you know, 5-10 years ago, whatever. That's always nice too. Sneaking random facts or pictures about you into presentations. I'm going to touch on that in a second. Math and English is always a fun one. This was very easy to do when I was at Masuda High School, Super Science High School. So a lot of the kids are pretty versed in math. I would never do anything too crazy like, you know, roots or trigonometry or anything like that. But you know, simple fun things like how do you say 5 + 7 in English, and then, you know, you can progressively get more difficult from there. So kind of now doubling back to the second point. This is an activity, find someone who activity. And then for whoever doesn't know how this works, basically you have a kind of bingo board, something sort of set up like this, put a whole bunch of things and find people around the room. And then so what I've done is kind of sneak questions in here that literally like no other student could answer except me, like, oh, find someone who's been to Korea or something like that, or just, you know, some other country. And they'll look at it and be like, what? No one in this class has been to Mongolia or something like that. So just small little factoids like that if you want to sneak them into your games and presentations and activities, go for it. Other things ALTs have done, cooking. So this might not be an easy thing for everyone, but never hurts to ask. Typically more with smaller classes or an EFS or English club. Music. This is something our very own Mr. Alex Chilla has done. He didn't get me a picture of him, which I'm very angry about. I'm just kidding, Chilla, I love you. And using music in the classroom. Of course, this can be done in, you know, different ways, whether it's singing, whether it's playing an instrument, or sorry, Chilla, I love you. Or whatever else. And then even aside from that, bringing the experience out of class. If you play an instrument or you sing and you want to join, you know, a band or brass band or chorus, ask about it. If it's something you're really, you know, passionate about, ask about it. Never hurts to ask. Art and photography, as our main man Azad asked me about, you know, incorporate your art into games, whether it's making cards with your art or pictures or photos on them, or whether it's just digitally, whether it's putting it in a PowerPoint or sneak it into games in some way, shape, or form. Again, these ways of sneaking your skills can be a lot more subtle than others. And then sports. This is not something I've done personally, but I've heard tales of people doing like English dodgeball. Gonna be honest, not exactly sure how they've been able to accomplish that, but if you have any ideas, again, just ask about it. And if you are interested in doing a club even, if you're at high school level, they kind of take clubs more seriously, so don't necessarily expect a yes, but again, never hurts to ask. So back to my list. What I want everyone to do now is basically, it doesn't have to be this format, but open up either Word or Notepad or something like that. And basically, I just want you to make a list. of just your strong points, things you studied, things you think you can incorporate into the classroom. Even if you think you can't incorporate it into the classroom, write it down anyway. So just if you want to use this as a template, cool, break it down into study, work, general skills, traits, hobbies, interests, travel, cool. If you want to add another subheading, also cool. So all I'm going to say is, however you want to do it, just open up WordPad, open up Notepad, something, and just, let's say 3 minutes. So I will say, everyone, you get about 3 minutes. And I don't know if there's a way to do it on screen, so I'm just going to do it on my phone. So 3 minutes starting now. Everyone, please take some time to write down your skills. I'm going to mute myself for a moment. I have a question for the JTs, the Japanese teachers. If you could type into chat whether you work at a high school, junior high school, or elementary school, I would appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, guys, sorry, just the Japanese teachers, not the ALTs. It's going to be important for the next part of the session. That's why. Okay, so what we're going to do now is break into groups. And now we are going to talk, and we're going to bounce ideas off of each other. And this, again, the roles are going to be quite different for Senpai ALTs versus first years. And I would like kind of the Senpais to start and just have an open discussion. Talk about how you've incorporated your skill sets into the classroom. There is going to be 3 groups, and the groups are going to be divided up by what type of school you work at. So essentially, there is, just 1 second, I forgot to open this up. There's going to be 1 group for high school ALTs, 1 group for those who do just junior high, and then there's going to be one for kind of split elementary junior. So that said, there's going to kind of be, I guess, 2 senpais, maybe 3 for each group. Okay, I was a little scared for a second because I only saw me. So anyway, I'm not scared anymore. Okay, so is everyone back in? I believe we are. Yes. So back to Chotomate, my screen. Okay, so now I want to bring it back to the larger group, and I would like to ask if anyone wants to share how they've incorporated their skills into the classroom, and try and keep it brief-ish to a minute or two. And I know this is a very open-ended question, but if you could just share, I guess, like maybe 1 or 2 facets how you incorporated your skill set into the classroom. And yes, please use the raise hand function. I see Mr. Deffer is first. So Dave, please share.
Okay, so my background is environmental sustainability. That's what I did my degree in university. So I was just mentioning to my group that we had a chapter in our textbook that was about plastic waste. And so I got excited, that's my bread and butter, environmentalism, sustainability. And I created a lesson plan that was too difficult for the students. And I used a bunch of high-level vocabulary, and it completely failed. So it was a scenario where I thought, hey, this is a perfect opportunity to go into what I know and talk about what I'm passionate about. And I just overshot the mark. So it was kind of a learning experience for me. And like the next year when we did that chapter in the book, I dialed it back and kind of took that lesson plan back to the drawing board. And just because it seemed like something would fit perfectly, I got overzealous, and that was to my detriment. So it's just a learning experience, and finding the ways that you can fit in your passions into your lesson plans, while keeping in mind that just because you're passionate about something and you're very knowledgeable on it, you got to eat the humble pie, and you got to make sure it's accessible to everybody, or what's the point? So that was my experience.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I think we'll all have those experiences where we try and do something, whether it's using our own experience or elsewise, it's going to, I hate to say this, we're all gonna fail at some point, but don't take it too hard. It's gonna happen to everyone, and just learn from it. Cam, you are next, so please
Wonderful.
share.
Yeah, let me put my hand down real quick. No, yeah, kind of going off the whole failure thing, something that I talked about was like, and maybe it's the too obvious choice for the background, but having studied Japanese and not being great at studying Japanese, I think having that connection with your students of like, look, I'm also trying to study a foreign language, and it's also difficult for me. So like, I get where you're coming from. But also, if you study Japanese like school or whatever, taking the games that your Japanese teachers used, or like the tools that they gave you to help study the language, try to adapt those to English. So like one example I used in our group was like breaking down words so they're not so difficult to remember. And Veronica gave the example of Wednesday, breaking it down to where it's Wednesday, which is how a lot of people, even native speakers, remember how to spell Wednesday. It's by breaking it down like that. And I think having that realness with your students of like, look, I get where you're coming from. I'm also trying to study this language, and it's also difficult for me to study a foreign language. Like, you can have that connection in that aspect. I think that's important.
Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, I think anyone who studied Japanese, we know it's a hell of a language to learn coming from English. So I think, yeah, reverse engineering, things like that is also a very effective tool. So thanks. Mr. Alex Chilla, or just Chilla because he hates his first name.
Say my first name. Yeah, so I'm primarily teaching at elementary, and I've played guitar and sang since I was in junior high. So one thing that I always like to do with my students is every semester, every like couple of months or so, I'll pick a new song, and I'll play it on guitar, and I'll teach the students to sing it. So every time before class, we kind of use that as a warm up and sing together. And I find that that kind of gets them like ready to learn English. And I also find that like, the kids remember those songs when they get into middle school and, later on. So I think it starts to sort of build that relationship with the English language for them. So yeah.
Agreed. That's all I have to say. Shane, you're next.
So I'm just gonna focus on the who I realize my group. I'm sorry I spoke for so long, but the thing I think I did a lot in high school, and this is going way back, was speech and debate, and I'm very passionate about doing speeches, and basically the same way that my speech coach helped me like go about like speaking, is working the word through not frontwards but trying to go backwards through the word. Has really helped the pronunciation, and also with doing like the speech contest that every year they have in the middle schools, it's a good way to get the kids kind of excited about being able to do English. And they're always also like exhibited to the entire school as well. Like it's done in front of everyone. So like the upcoming kids are also very like, let's go for it. And seeing them be able to like raise their level so quickly happens with that. It's just amazing. And I think the speech contest and being able to work on like the pronunciation and speaking side of things is a very good opportunity for us. And I mean, that's also something I'm just very passionate about.
Yeah, definitely. As a fellow debate guy, I feel you. Azad, you are next.
Hey, I just want to quickly say about like my background is in art. A lot of the things was quite easy for me to bring over in terms of design because we're always making worksheets and presentations, and I love video games, so a lot of games that I incorporated. I wanted to also say that like JTEs are super important when it comes to this. I've had some fantastic JTEs over the years who, after like sharing my passion about various topics, even if it's nothing to do with art, there's like it's light bulb things for them because they are teachers. They teach the same kids that you are teaching. So they will have ideas, or they'll find ways to incorporate it. Or like they used to be kids themselves in a situation who had an ALT where they might be inspired by something. I would always try to seek their counseling whenever that kind of stuff comes up. And even if you have something that kind of maybe obscure or is a bit more difficult and stuff, keep in mind that you somehow got into this yourself. I would never underestimate these kids. There's stuff that these kids, I had a kid who came up to me after a lesson one time who said, yo, I'm into Tupac. And I was like, this is the best day ever. And I had a conversation with this one child who I've never had a conversation with ever since about Tupac. So like it happens. Don't underestimate them.
Real quick anecdote. I had a girl one time who heard the song No Scrubs by TLC. And she said, what's a scrub? And I said, well, my first thought was, well, didn't you listen to the song? But then I was like, yeah, just don't use that word. But yeah, you'll get these cool experiences out of these things, which is something I want to touch upon next. But last, we have our first and probably last first year of the day. William, please share.
Yeah. Just something that I shared with the group. It's like I do have a teaching background, but I don't think there's like a golden ticket on how to be a good teacher. As you said, Dom, at the beginning of the presentation, every classroom is different, and that is 100% true in every classroom I've ever taught in. And I think the best way that I always get to know my students and always try and make a good classroom environment is by sharing my interests, and then in the hopes that the students will maybe have common interests, and then that will engage the students. And I think it's a good way to build a rapport with your learners. And then in turn, it also helps them engage more in the classroom, even though, as a lot of us have discovered, a lot of the students don't particularly want to learn English. But it motivates them a bit more if they have similar interests to you and they know you have that common ground. So just wanted to share that little tip.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think it's hugely important to share your interests, big or small. And yeah, teaching from other subjects. Naomi was also a teacher, I believe. It doesn't necessarily equate one-to-one. Even if you taught English versus TEFL or TESOL, it's not always going to be a one-to-one thing. You always just kind of have to figure out for teaching foreign learners what works for you. And as I'm sure we've all figured out today, it's very different for everyone. So we're like perfect on time. Awesome. All right. So what else? So some of you guys were jumping ahead of just a little bit, which is totally fine. But basically what I wanted to focus more on the discussions was how you could use your skills in the classroom, but then what can come of that? So like the more you use your skills in the classroom or just in general, the more you let others know about you, the more opportunities can arise. Here are some things that I've done. So my main high school, most of the high school at the time was a super science high school, and they could see that, wow, this guy knows PowerPoint, because PowerPoint surprisingly is not something I learned very well here. But for me, it was like second nature. I've been using PowerPoint since high school. And I used it in every single one of my lessons, and they could tell that I used it well. So I was asked to help the second year students make presentations by first making a presentation of my own, just to kind of like, you know, just as essentially a mock presentation. And then they would use that to make a presentation for their trip to Thailand. And then I would, like the next week, they did their presentation to me. So things like that. Back when, and again, I don't want to offend any Spanish speakers, back when I was kind of a little bit better at Spanish, I was asked to do private Spanish lessons with some students that one was going abroad. They were both of them were going abroad to Bolivia by weird coincidence on 2 separate occasions. And then I have played sax with my school bands on a few different occasions. And then again, back to the debate thing, I was essentially the debate guy. Like it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not obscure, unorthodox for an ALT to be in charge of the debate team at a high school. But I was the only one who knew about that particular competition, even more than the Japanese teacher. So that was something I always kind of prided myself in. So essentially, TLDR, long story short, the more you tell people about yourself, the more opportunities can arise. So then in the last part of this, something I just kind of, again, going back to my original presentation I did a few years ago, I will just post some doc of a whole bunch of games and activities I've done over the years. This is more for the first years to the drive after we're done. It's not up there now, but I will get it up there. And I think that's about it. So we're like 2 minutes ahead. So we're like perfect. Yeah, thanks everyone. Again, this was a lot more of a discussion workshop than anything. And I was surprised how little help the first years needed, actually. Usually I feel like a lot of the first years need a lot more. Oh, Engate, you have your hand raised. Would you like to share something?
I do.
Yes.
In my group, one of the JTEs was interested in how I introduce debate to my junior high school students, which is part of the lessons in Sanense. If she would like to take this offline, I just want to let her know that I'm available to take it offline with her and maybe take her through the process I use with my JTEs in junior high schools.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So that was that was my presentation. I hope you guys found out more about yourself and how you can use your talents. But again, as bonus extra, take what ideas from other people and how you can incorporate that into the classroom. And then furthermore, how you can use it outside of the classroom. ALTs, being an ALT is not just about teaching. So yeah, thank you all. And yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you,
Hey,
Dom.
Dom, great job, man. Thank you.
I try.
Thanks, Dom.